This is the HomeTech Podcast for June 9th. From Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson.
From Powell, Ohio, I'm TJ Huddleston.
And from Pickering, Ontario, I'm Gavin Campbell.
And welcome to the HomeTech Podcast, a podcast all about home automation, home technology, and clean air, I guess. Gavin, you're like foggy right now. I can't really see. What's going on up there?
Oh, we got some forest fires going on. You know, it smells like one campfire out here, but I guess that's not good. But, you know, we don't have it as bad as New York. We turned all our fans on this side, so we're blowing it down towards New York.
That makes sense, yeah.
You know, all Canadians got together and turned on our fans, but it makes sense. It's pretty bad. This is the first time I've ever had to. I remember having like air this bad. You know, I've been to New York, so I know what bad air is, but, you know, we just lost a lot of New York listeners. That's all I have to say. They're now tuning out. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, but we gained some Canadian listeners, so there we go. Washes out.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how far it's spreading. I mean, we have it in Ohio. It's not like anywhere near as bad as New York, but you can definitely tell there's like a haze going on compared to what there normally is. And I would say normally there's not really much going on, except when it gets really hot here or something. But it's pretty crazy how many different places it's traveling and where people have reported seeing it at.
It looks like there's a lot of fires out west too, not just in the east where it affects major population centers, but you know, definitely out west. The map I'm looking at, I have to post this. It's hilarious. It's got all of the states, including, you know, Minneapolis and Billings, Montana. It does have Montreal labeled, but like as it gets further out to like where would Calgary be? I have no idea. It just says Canada, and it's like one like this is what Americans can do for geography, I guess. It's not very good, but
yeah, those of us in Ontario don't know what's out there either.
It's the Wild West.
It's the Wild West. We just know mountains and water. You know, you'll eventually hit water. You know, and yeah, it's out there somewhere.
Yeah, it looks like it's
man.
I can't really tell which state that is in, or I don't know. It's just not
province.
Yeah, or province. Okay, yeah, it's territory. It's
that's north.
It's north. Yeah.
Listen, this is a different podcast today. We're gonna be talking about geography.
This is geography talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
I live on a peninsula.
Yeah. But you know what though? This is if there's, you can say this is a good thing, but I have an Aqara air quality sensor, you know, and for the longest time I wondered if this thing was actually doing anything, because it only went from like 5 leaves to 4 leaves to 5 leaves to 4 leaves. Like it never really like picked up anything. And you know what? Yesterday I showed you guys the graph ahead of the show, and yesterday at like 3 p.m. it woke up and all of a sudden started detecting bad air in the house, and it spiked up, and I saw the warnings and everything. And you know what? I was happy to see that in a way, because now I'm like, it is working. I know it's doing something. It's monitoring the air. And yes, I know I have bad air, but it's confirming that. So, you know, I might get another one later on, but I don't expect to have too many of these bad air incidences, I hope.
Yeah, definitely sounds like an interesting device to have, and it sounds like it worked for your situation. I mean, you definitely could confirm it with what was actually happening, the way you were describing it and everything. So I know some of these devices, though, they can come not calibrated. I was reading some article the other day on Reddit, and how they had like 3 of these different sensors. I don't remember which one they were exactly, but they were all different readings. So which one do you really trust? But I mean, it sounds like yours actually worked. So
yeah, it's all relative too. I mean, if it's all, no matter what level it's at, if you start seeing it go up, that basically means your air is getting worse anyway. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care what the exact value is. I just want to look at the trend. And that's what this was doing. This spiked up quickly, though.
Well, the good news is, after this week, if you want to ever escape the dystopian hellscape that is outside, you can buy these Apple Vision Pros and slap them on your head and just live in your own reality if you wanted. Or, you know, just kind of adjust it and peek out and see if it's better, and then go back to living inside your head.
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. What was funny is I, you know, had just edited the show either sometime yesterday and was laughing because I edited it after the release came out. And so here's kind of, I'll paraphrase what Gavin was saying. You said you weren't interested in VR. So it's VR you were out. And then you were like, but I am interested in AR. and you're like, AR seems really cool. And then you were like, but the price, the rumored price is between $2,000 and $3,000. So, that's way too much. So I'm now curious after, those couple of data points in summary, like, where do you stand on this thing, Gavin? Like, it's $3,500 US, and I think more in like probably $7,000 Canadian, right? So like, you guys aren't getting off by buying something. It's going to be more for you guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about this thing?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna say the technology is extremely cool. Like, and I admit there is a lot of excellent technology. Like, they put a lot of R&D. There's a lot of expensive technology. The screens, the resolutions alone. Like seeing their screen on the front of the mask itself. Like, there's a lot in this, and I can see why it's an expensive device because of all that technology. Now, personally, I just think, I'm just thinking it's too expensive for the average person. That's how I feel. Like, especially as a Canadian, because now, you guys say 3,500. I'm like, that's doable, But then when I do the conversion, I'm like, oh, it's like 4,700. And then if you wear glasses, I was wondering about that. Apparently you have to get them fit, and you have to buy different lenses that could range in $500 range, which I'm assuming is the US dollars. So that's another, that's almost like another $1,000 to us. So then you're getting into the 5+ tax, and it started to really add up there for this. But I see why it's expensive. It's just, you're going to have the fanboys buying it. You're going to have certain people buying it. But I just think it's more too expensive for a large population. But the second gen, I believe, will probably come down in price, and they'll come out with or they may come out with a light version.
Oh, wait. I'm gonna stop you right there.
Yeah.
Nothing second gen Apple nothing Apple comes down in price. Like they maintain that price.
I think they're gonna have a light version, because you know what? That's what I was thinking. I'm like, why did they call this one Pro? They must have a cheaper version in the back waiting. They're going to make all the initial people buy the Pro one, and then say, hey, we have one for half the price for you Canadians.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And right. So that's what I think I'll wait on. But I think it's a cool technology. I think Apple pulled it off, and it's going to change, the way we interact with certain things. I could see myself watching a nice movie on a 120-foot screen, with my Apple AirPods in. Like, I would like to experience that. So I'm excited for it, but I'm not gonna buy one now.
Yeah. All right, TJ, you're if I can summarize yours and remember, I think you said you're very interested in AR, and that you seem like, out of the three of us, the most like comfortable or more interested in getting some kind of AR or VR headset in general. So what do you think about this thing?
I mean, so my thing is, I want something AR because I want to be able to use it in like my daily life, right? So like I always come up with silly examples, but it's basically just a way to augment my whatever I'm doing, which is what AR is. And I think this thing is one of the first devices I've seen in a while where I actually like want to go out and get it. Like, there's not many devices that I see that I'm like, I have to have that. Like, they're always like, little widgets or, light switches and stuff like that, where it's like they might improve my life. But this thing like just seems like a cool device. I think everybody's right that they're going to release a cheaper version at some point. I think you pretty much have to. But if they would have came out with something that was like half the price and not anywhere near this cool, I don't think anybody would have cared about it as much. But they kind of released a device that was like awesome out of the box, and you could see it in a lot of different situations.
Yeah.
There's
been a lot of like there's been a lot of the Apple fanboy things that's going on, like, oh, this is a game changer, it's amazing, and everybody's like talking about the price, and I don't know, like, the price seems, for what it is, and like for the Pro moniker, and for like having the two 4K displays inside, and basically like 2 chips, like it has an M2 processor, which is what you have in like the higher end Macs now. Like, that it's a real computer with 3 screens on it. Like, it looks like it's going to cost that much money. Like, it seems like it's a fair, it's definitely inflated, but it seems like a fair price, I guess, is what I would say. So I'm not too worried about the price. And like you guys are saying, there's definitely an Apple Vision coming, or maybe an Apple Vision Mini, who knows? one of these days. Like there's something else coming down the road that will just be kind of like for general everyday people. And Gavin, I like what you said. Like to me, this is like the Gen 1, like everything that everybody's complaining about. Oh, this is dead on arrival, blah, blah, blah. Like you could almost take those same people and trace them back to what I was saying about the iPhone when you couldn't copy and paste when the iPhone general first came out. Like, oh, it's stupid. It doesn't even have a keyboard. Like who can type without a keyboard, and like it doesn't even have copy and paste. How am I supposed to like make an email without copying and pasting something? And so like, if you look at this as like a Gen 1 device, that I think they knocked that out of the park. Like it's a pretty good product. And the fact that they have an entire ecosystem already built up around it, and you can just throw your apps or like whatever computer app you have that it works on your MacBook, like, or your Apple computer or whatever, or your iPad or whatever, you just throw it up on the imaginary reality screen that you have in front of you. That's I don't think you can discount that any. Like that, Facebook, all these other companies have had the gaming companies. I can't remember their names, like Oculus, maybe HTC, Oculus got bought.
Oculus is better,
yeah. But like they all had to like start from scratch, right? Apple's been doing this for the best I can tell is like 10 years. And I'm sure they've said exactly how long they've been working on it, but like you can see technologies that are core to this that were introduced in phones a while back. And we've been using like the little place the object from IKEA in 3D on your table. Oh, look, that vase looks really good right there. And that's them training the phones to do this stuff. Like for how many years now we've been using this stuff in the background, not really placing it together. Like the little dial thing on your watch, like somehow that migrated over to the basically one of the little controls on this thing. So I think I agree, Gavin. Like this thing knocks it out of the park. I don't know if version 1's for me. It'd be kind of cool. It seems kind of like clunky, but if you look at like version 2, 3, 4, 5, like look how long it took the iPhone to get where people were like, oh yeah, I'll carry that phone. I'll daily carry that phone. Like I think that they have bigger ambitions. They can get that platform, like the technology shrunk. I mean, the first Apple Watch was pretty clunky. It's kind of gone through a little bit of changes. It's gotten lighter with better battery over time. If they can do that just minimally with this product, I think in the future, this could be something. There could be some legs here. So I'm very interested in it. I wasn't interested at all going into this. Saw the demo. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'll wait for it to not cost $3,500, or maybe work will buy me one.
Well, and that's my thing, is I see it mainly as a commercial thing for the longest time. There's always going to be rich people buying these things, but I see a lot of businesses buying this to not only develop stuff for it, but I mean, if you could give this to somebody instead of a computer or something like that, I mean, that would be realistically a lot easier. That everything is all in one. I mean, it's just I don't see why they wouldn't do it.
It's a write-off.
Yeah. And it's like yeah.
Sorry, it's a Schitt's Creek joke. It's a write-off. The government will pay for it.
Yeah.
I do like how it feels like they didn't hold back with the technology and the price. They were like, you know what, let's just make it really good no matter what it costs. Or just because at that price and with the amount of technology, I don't even think the Oculus and those other ones are even its competition anymore. Like
no.
I mean, if you're gonna buy, if you're gonna buy it, you're buying it. There's no like, should I get that or should I get this? No, you have $5,000. You're gonna buy the Apple one. Like they have no competition, and they look way ahead of everybody else at this point, I think.
Yeah, 5,000 patents ahead, evidently. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
Especially around the eye tracking thing, which I thought was incredibly cool. Like,
no controllers or anything.
Yeah, you don't have to wave your hands up and hold them in front of you to do anything. Like, you can just sit there and just kind of like sit in your Wally chair, just sit back and relax and just kind of move your fingers. And this sounds great.
I like how they pointed that out too. It's like you can control it with no controllers, throwing a little jab, like how, with the iPhone, you could type on it without a stylus. Remember that back in the days, it's kind of that little jab. I was like, yeah, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they took a lot. I mean, there's still barriers to this product that still exists. Like they didn't get rid of the thing, you have to put this thing over your head or on your eye. You've got to put this like big strap thing on the back of your head. It's clunky. It will be clunky for years to come. But they solved a lot of things that were massive barriers to entry or friction on some of the other products that just like basically turned me off. Like, I don't want to carry around controllers and have pretend hands in front of me and that kind of thing. This is not that. This is a whole new thing. And one of the things I've been talking about for years, I think we even talked about it either behind the scenes or during one of the conversations we had about the home theater stuff, is like, and I've talked about this many times with people. It's like, I want to have like a small room that has like just just an engineered sound system. Go all out on the sound, but don't put a projector up. What I want are like lenses that I can look in, like a little headset, put that on, give me the 1,000-foot screen. I don't care. Make it huge. Make it look massive. Frank's 10,000 inch TV for any Weird Al fans out there. And then let me watch that in peace. And everybody's like, oh, the big argument is like, oh no, you're not going to sit there with those goggles on next to your friends and family as they're watching the same movie. It's like, well, Apple kind of solved that. Like, they put cameras on the thing and they kind of pass through your vision and put you in the same room. You can still look over and see who's sitting next to you, see their reaction, see them laughing with their fake eyes, which is weird, but it was really like, it's really, and it also an interesting thing. Like, you could walk in on somebody using these and see, you can adjust, I guess, how immersed you are. And if you want to block out everything, the display on the outside kind of, what is it? It's kind of like a blue, it looks like the Siri thing when you press the button to call Siri. It looks just like that. But it basically indicates to the person walking up, like socially, hey, I'm busy, don't talk to me. You know, like I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to see you come into the room because I'm like fully immersed in whatever I'm doing. And then this, you know, there's a pass-through version where it'll show a weird recreation of your eyes. Like the images, the marketing images were always dead on, which there's a reason for that, because your eyes are like 4 inches or 3 or 4 inches in front of where they should be on an OLED screen. But it looks interesting as you could walk in and see, oh, well, they're not too busy because I can see their eyes. And when you move your eyes, those fake eyes that are yours, that are pictures of yours, I guess, will track over and see who's coming in the room. I think that was really just a smart, like, social thing to do with these things. I don't expect to see anybody walking around outside with these, but you know what? I said the same exact thing about these stupid things called AirPods. Like, how stupid were these? Like, when they came out, like, oh, I saw somebody at the gym wearing those earpod things. Oh my God, that's so funny. I saw somebody at the grocery store wearing that. What a JA, you know, like who's going to wear those things? And then all of a sudden, like, literally, if now I think if you see somebody without AirPods in their ears, those little white AirPods, like, what are they doing? Like, they're crazy. Like, why don't you have your AirPods in? Like, they're literally everywhere. You see them everywhere you go. So will this turn into that? Maybe not. Maybe one day it will, if it's like contact lens size, right? But it might have a little, with the social adjustments they've made, it may have a little more traction than I think most people are expecting. And you may start to see people walking outside with these things for 2 hours at a time until the battery runs down. It's interesting, very interesting product. And the fact that they have an entire ecosystem that is just ready to go day one, whenever they sell this thing, it's not like you have to wait for your favorite app to come out on. No, your favorite app's already there. They are releasing all these APIs and stuff to like add on to it, but that can come down the road. You can already load Safari and surf the web
messages
on this thing. Yeah, it's all there. It's crazy to think about how much runway they didn't need to get this product off the ground. It's wild.
And it's been amazing to see everybody's different reaction to this, you know? Like, there's been a lot of heated conversation. It's like, in the end, I just respect everyone's decision. If you think it's too expensive, that's fine. Yeah. That's your decision.
Oh, it's expensive.
It's expensive, you know? Like, but expensive is relative to the person too, you know? Like,
I saw a post, a friend of the show, Richard Gunther, on Mastodon, and he said, you know, I was complaining about the price, and his partner said, "How much did you pay for your first flat screen TV?"
Yeah,
and it's like, well, yeah, touche. Like, I've seen people pay $20,000 for a 42-inch flat screen TV, Now, that was a while back, but the prices of a 42-inch flat screen TV came way down in 20 years. So that could happen to this technology as well.
Exactly. Like my first DLP TV was like $6,000 Canadian with the surround sound. So I mean, like, yeah, it's one thing we all have to agree though is the technology in this thing is cool. That's the one thing you cannot say about this thing. And let's just get along there. Common ground.
Yeah, respect for whoever has been working on this thing for as long as they have been, because we were talking about this before the show. The roadmap of this thing, you can see if you go back and you look when Apple introduced LiDAR on the back of the phones, when Apple was messing around with camera technologies, when they're basically making their own process and fabs for silicone, or not fabs, but they're making their own process for making their own silicone, like all of that are steps they had to take as a $1 trillion company. It's not like it's, they had money, they can just throw at the problem, right? But those are all steps they had to take for a project that is probably not going to pay off for a while. Like this is still, it's an interesting product, but it's going to take a while for it to kind of like gain mass adoption, I think, unless there's like some killer app that they're just holding back on. And I've heard people, when people are talking, they say that they still have features to show off on this thing that they did not announce. So that should be interesting. They don't have to tell you everything day one.
Yeah, gotta leave some mystery in there. Everybody likes a little mystery,
Yeah. Well, I guess that is I just checked. I just checked with our attorney, and I think our contractual binding where we have to talk about new Apple products. I don't know. It's really cool. I could see this being used as a home theater thing. Like, to me, this is it's either a work thing, like Gavin, like I have three massive screens already around me right now. If I could just make those go away and put this on, and I could have a bigger screen, that would be cool. And then I could also see this being just perfect for home theater, especially the little rooms I was describing and how that could work. Man, any day, sign me up. That give me a tight room that is acoustically engineered to perfection. Put a seat or two in it, and I'll be happy.
It's a good idea though. I can see it. Yeah.
Somebody can take that idea. I do want royalties. I don't have time to make it.
Yeah. I'll put an addition on my house for that.
Yeah. I don't even think you need an addition. Like, you need like half a bedroom. I think that you could do it in that amount of space. What I want to do is consult with Owen and find out like how much space do I need for a subwoofer. And if it's, it's one of those things where you really have to put the room together. Like there's got to be a minimal size room, right?
A bathroom.
You can't go any smaller. Yeah, you can't do this in a bathtub, but you can do this in half a bedroom, or maybe it's a spare bedroom and you just convert that in like a 10 by 10 or 10 by 12 bedroom. Maybe that's the space that we aim for.
It's the guest room, but you use it for AR, VR once in a while.
Yeah, it's the guest room. And when you walk in, it feels like, a recording studio because it's just, there's no echo or anything.
This is where you sleep, right here.
Yeah. In the padded room. Yeah, too good. All right. Well, not much, because this is literally the only story that happened this week. There wasn't much in the news, but we did have one HomeTech headline that slid in, because this one company was smart enough to put a press release out when Apple, what was this? The day after Apple released everything. So this is all we have to talk about because everybody else was taking a break and didn't want to get absorbed into this Apple Vision Pro madness that's going on. So what do you say we jump into our HomeTech headline?
Let's do it.
Aqara is the company, and they have unveiled its latest offering, the U100 Smart Lock, capable of integrating with Apple's HomeKit key feature. It's pretty cool. This cutting-edge technology allows users to unlock their doors using their iPhones or Apple Watches. Just like Tap to Pay, it eliminates any need for physical keys. The U100 Smart Lock boasts advanced features including fingerprint recognition, passcode entry, and remote unlocking, which is really cool. I'm going to say this sounds like a pretty cool product. Also, I'm going to play the clown music for 2 seconds. It's got Matter. They adopted Matter, so you'll be able to use it that way. This looks like a cool product. This I really want one of these passkey things, and for the price, I think this one's pretty good. It's like $200 and it's on sale right now. So, Gavin, how many did you buy day one?
Oh, I didn't buy any day one.
Disappointing.
And it's funny, we went from talking about a product that we thought was too expensive to a product now that we think is really cheap, right?
Different ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah, but in Canadian dollars, it's $250, and if I order one today, I can get it tomorrow. And for those of you out there, I just noticed the presence sensor FP2 is back in stock too. So if you're on the market for those, they just stocked those on the American and Canadian stores, so you can grab some of those too at the same time. This is fully loaded when it comes to features. I mean, this has almost everything. It looks like it runs on Zigbee 3. So, we're waiting on official, Home Assistant people to Zigbee to MQTT, see if they can add support. But you're not going to get all the features if you do it. People were talking about rekeying it and how that might be a problem because it's not a stand. They were saying it's like a smaller key or something like that. So it's harder to rekey. So, but it's kind of cool that it does have actually a key. The panel slides down and you put the key in there. That's really cool. And then, all the features, if you have their hub, all the features that come with it, it's really, I'm going to wait a little while. I don't see this selling out, as like the presence sensor did, but I'm going to wait a while and see what, support it gets in Home Assistant and what all the people say after they've had it for a while, and then maybe think about it.
Yeah, you had me ready to spend money. I was looking at the Amazon website and I don't see the FP2 in stock. So I'll have to keep my breathing presence sensor instead.
Order it from Canada.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it looks like the only other option of locks right now that are out that have home key support, this is where you can just tap to enter your house, I guess, is the Level Lock Plus, and it's $329. So quite a bit more.
And home key support's cool because even if your phone dies, it will still work. Like it has like a internal battery or something that still kind of just keeps enough juice for it to still be able to use it. So you're safe there. One day I'm going to get a home key lock. It's just, I'm waiting for the right one.
Yeah, I really want one of these for my side door. If I did the level, it looks like the Level Lock Plus, I guess that one I could probably sneak in onto the front door. I don't know. I'll probably just need to live with it being the side door, but because it would just be easier. There's already one here. It just doesn't work. I already have the keypad, but it doesn't work anymore. For some reason it died and whatever. But I've wanted one of these newer locks with the newer features for a long time. And this one looks like it could fit that bill. I don't really care that it's a different key. Like that, I think is just kind of like the backup in case the battery dies on this thing. But, that I could carry a key on me, but I don't want to, I'd rather walk up, tap my watch, the front door and, or the side door or whatever, and walk in. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Pretty nice looking lock and almost half the cost of some of the competition. So seems like a good option for a lot of people there. And
it is what 15% off or something like that with a code.
It's like 162 right now.
Yeah, 161.49 shipped after the code. US, Canada, Australia is, I don't know. It says USCAU 100. Oh, okay. US, Canada 100, I guess. So there, Gavin, you get 15% off too.
Nice.
15% off my $250. Nice.
Yeah, you have to buy one now, Gavin.
My 15% off is bigger than your 15% off.
Does it come in silver?
That's true.
It only comes in gray.
No, they usually only come with like one color.
Aww.
That's what makes them so cheap as well. They don't have to stock multiple finishes.
Bummer. Yeah, I won't be able to get away with a big giant gray box on. Well, maybe I could. It's a side door, so we'll see.
Yeah, we have to do the level lock for the front door and maybe this one for the side door.
Maybe, yeah. Well, it seems like a good deal. Supports matter. Has like you said, Gavin, has all of the specs on this thing. This has got everything you could ever want out of a smart lock, other than maybe a finish. So a finish would be nice, guys. But yeah, maybe I'll spend some money on this. Who knows?
Buy it right now.
All right,
buy right now.
Yeah, you gotta let us know
on the air. Yeah,
I couldn't buy my FP2 sensors, so you gotta buy something.
And the 15% off code won't be there tomorrow, so you might as well buy it. Right.
That's true.
Dang, you guys are hard bargain here.
Gotta spend money before Infocom. So,
so there's two things in my cart, right? Well, there's this lock that's in my cart, and then there's also a little garage that I was going to buy for my little robot that mows my lawn. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn.
Okay, you need to buy the
We're
garage.
taking away from Clippy.
Yeah, you have to buy the garage. I can't believe that you've waited this long. It's just been living out in the elements. It's kind of messed up.
You know, that's your problem for waiting this long to buy Clippy's garage. So now you have to buy two things, right?
Yeah,
so,
buy both. How much is the garage?
Yeah.
113, 114.
That's okay. That's nothing.
Yeah, you can swing it.
It's fancy. It's like a little carport, like a little covered.
You can always return the lock if you really are unhappy, but you might as well order it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, might as well order it now.
I'd be messed up to order it for your lawnmower and then return it and be like, nah, you really don't need this, actually.
Yeah, that'll upset Clippy.
Florida man dies by robot lawnmower.
We'll have to see. I may order this. I'm gonna have to think about it. Yeah, I wish it was in a different color.
Don't think too long.
Yeah, it might go out of stock and you're not going to have that code anymore and it'll cost you 15% more.
That's right.
I mean, it would cost me $189 or $161 less if I don't think about it.
You still need it for the side door.
Do I?
This is our toughest challenge to make you spend money to date.
Yeah, I know. If it's like a $7 app, I've bought it before you can say, oh, but you don't need this.
Well, just think of it this way. No other lock is coming any cheaper.
That's true.
So you might as well just get this now.
All right. I'll have it. It looks like I'll have it Saturday. So
that was pretty easy.
Yes. While you're on there, you order the meter probe if you barbecue. That's a really good one.
Oh yeah, might as well add that on.
All right. Well, we'll see if it shows up Saturday, and I'll have a nice little lock to talk about maybe next week, Infocom. So probably won't be talking about it. We'll see what happens. All right. Well, all of the link and topic we talked about tonight can be found on our show notes over at HomeTech.fm/439. All right, we do have a little bit of listener feedback in the mailbox. It comes from friend of the show, Alan, over there. He says, I'm perplexed by the brand acceptance of Wi-Fi home automation and IoT devices. I've always felt very comfortable with a hub that supports my Z-Wave and Zigbee sensors, buttons, and door locks, knowing that they are not vulnerable to internet attack as they are kind of on their own network and hiding behind a SmartThings hub. Why would you want to have all of those devices on the same Wi-Fi network as your computers, tablets, phones, etc.? Isn't this inherently more risky? Gavin, I think we'll just start with you. What?
Why are you starting with me?
What do you think about? Well, I mean, what do you think about this? Like, this just seems more risky to me, and I guess it is. Like, this is side channel attacks, but like you have mostly. Well, you have both devices. Like, do you think about this?
I do, but it's not really for security. I think when it comes to the security, I try to stay with name brand devices.
Yeah.
Right. Devices that, if they were exposed, you'd hear about it and they would take care of it. And, I stayed away from things like, even if they're a big name brand, I stayed away from brands that didn't have focus, like didn't give attention to the devices, kind of like Wemo, Belkin and Wemo. It always felt like Wemo was a little, add-on, right? But now look what's happened with their switches and the security and stuff, right? When it comes to certain Wi-Fi devices, I do have some Wi-Fi devices. My Ratio, for example, is Wi-Fi. My Echo Bee is Wi-Fi, and I'm fine with that. Those are big names. They focus on one thing and their security is big on them, right? But when it comes to all my sensors and all that stuff, they're all Zigbee, Z-Wave, even have some Bluetooth in there and some RF stuff. Like, that's the thing I like about Home Assistant. I get everything, right? I just got to add another antenna and I can have everything like that. And those are all segregated. My Aqara FP1s, those are Wi-Fi. I think they're Wi-Fi. Yeah, they're Wi-Fi. So, they're on the network, but Aqara is a big brand too, so they give focus. They've been releasing updates to it almost every 2 weeks now.
Right.
So that's good to see. So I totally agree. I'm not a fan of Wi-Fi IoT. And the main reason too is a lot of them, like if you don't have a good network at home, a good router and stuff like that, you could probably overload it with devices. After a certain amount of devices get added to it, who knows, like, they only give you one subnet on some of the cheaper routers, for example. And if you have a lot of sensors, you can run out of IP addresses or things like that, right? I always try to keep things off on my IP, off my network. And I liked having Zigbee and Z-Wave. I totally agree with what Alan's saying. I see what he's saying, but I also don't limit myself.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I mean, I think the mass adoption though is just because of the ease of use. I mean, with Wi-Fi devices, you don't have to have a separate hub and a separate automation system and all that stuff. Most of the time, they just work standalone, and that's the appeal to most people because most people don't want to run a hub and deal with a separate computer and everything else. They just want to plug it in and it work with their phone. So that's kind of where the difference is. But I'm pretty much the same as Gavin. All my, major devices like light switches and sensors and stuff like that, they're all Zigbee or Z-Wave. And then there's like, I sprinkle in some other stuff like Sonos. I mean, I'm not going to build my own sound system that works throughout the house. I could, but I'm just not going to spend the time or effort to do that. So there's certain devices that just work better when you can just buy them and plug them in and anybody can use them.
Yeah. And that is primarily, that is the reason that Wi-Fi adoption took off, right? Because the Wi-Fi antenna was the antenna that everyone had in their house already. If you had internet, you had either a Wi-Fi modem from the cable provider, or you had your own. Like there's nobody who has internet for IoT that doesn't have Wi-Fi, right? So like if you want to do your what is it called, the Gantt charts or whatever, not Gantt charts, if you want to do your Venn diagrams of who has an IoT device and who has Wi-Fi, like those two circles are pretty much on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people would have an IoT device that was only hooked up with Ethernet, right? That's not a bridge. That's just solely for IoT. They're few and far between, I guess is what I'm saying. And that is because of the convenience of having the Wi-Fi. These are smaller devices like sensors and that kind of thing. But I think what you've seen through the industry is that largely that has been the problem with IoT. The setup and deployment of IoT with Wi-Fi, which was never really designed to have all these little things hanging off of it. Just like Gavin said, you have a cheaper router, it may not give you enough IP addresses. You have a cheaper Wi-Fi. Having an IoT device that's kind of flaky, kind of like way far out of signal, that degrades the whole system. Like it was never designed to do this. And we've seen time and time again where like not so great devices get released. You have security problems with them, but that isn't limited to Wi-Fi. I think one of the first Mirai botnet things was access cameras, which are incredibly high-end IP cameras, right? But they had a standard login that they had for years and years and years, and turns out pretty easily exploitable. If you get in and just had, I guess they had some firmware updates that just never got applied to millions of cameras, and now we've got a botnet problem. So I get where he's coming from, but I think the industry is kind of correcting itself now and moving sensors and smaller things of those devices over towards Zigbee Z-Wave, with Matter kind of being on top of that as kind of the standard way of doing it, maybe. But I don't have a problem. I have a lot of Wi-Fi devices. I don't have a problem with them in general, but I do wish things that were just that don't require the bandwidth could just move off to another radio and like start assuming. I will be happy when we can start assuming that everyone has a Matter radio in their house, or a Zigbee radio or Z-Wave Matter, or a Z-Wave radio in their house, and we can look that up. If you go back in time and look at like when all this stuff was starting up 5-6 years ago for the consumers, like I have one in my bucket back there. I have one of the Revolve company that came out with like all the antennas in it, all the antennas you'll ever need, and it had, I think it even had like the Lutron antenna. I think it could integrate with Lutron. It's like everything you need in one box. And like, it was expensive, right? And all of the stuff that had Zigbee and Z-Wave were expensive because getting licensing and finding a chip and getting that installed was expensive. And they didn't have like a great API SDK to work with. It was expensive to have it developed for. And you saw those like get put into the premium products. And it's not until recently where we've seen like every cable TV remote come with, Zigbee built into it, that you start to see those prices start to come down over time. And now you're seeing them built into IoT devices. The prices are going to come in even more. You're going to get them with Matter. I think Paulus over at Home Assistant was saying that this is going to really lower the barrier to entry and price to getting Zigbee or Matter-based devices, I guess, thread-based devices on the network, on a thread network. So if that happens, I think we're all going to be better for it, just because the price will adjust down. You'll have all these little sensor devices thrown off on another network. But yeah, unlike other podcast hosts, I will never tell you to not hardwire anything in your house and only use Wi-Fi for all of your stuff. No, don't do that. Use hardwire everything you can, and then
no low voltage wiring, Seth. You don't need any low voltage wiring at all, no matter what house you have.
It's all going wireless, I guess. No, that's not the case. You will always have problems if that's. I mean, Gavin's true testament to that. He had a bunch of wireless stuff, and he had problems. And I think one of the first things you did when you came on the show, Gavin, you were pulling wire across your house. Like hard wires are the way to go if you can. So
always
always
hardwire.
You don't need like a million of them too. I think that's what people think too. And I go into a lot of these projects where there's like 5,000 wires.
Right.
And you're just like, you don't need that for the majority of situations. Like when you're building the mega mansions and stuff that, maybe you see in Florida or wherever the hot tourist spot is, like you do need all those wirings because that's what the system is doing. But like in a normal household, you at least need network wiring. I mean, if you're going to do no wiring at all, like you should at least have like a network wire per like 1,500 square feet for Wi-Fi at a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And like you could probably get rid of everything else, but you at least need several wires throughout a whole building.
And when it comes to security on the network, the one thing I see at my friend's house a lot of times that I worry about more than IoT devices is their own computers. When I see their computers, I'm like, oh my God, like, you never heard of a pop-up blocker? Like, and they just think that's normal. I'm like, yeah, it is normal to have these pop-ups, but you can get rid of all this stuff, but their computers like are some of the worst things when it comes to viruses and stuff like that. I'd be afraid to put my IoT devices on their network, like that's how bad it is. So I focus more on that on my network. It's a little more secure. I maintain everything and I keep eyes on security, but I'm also a little different than the average user. And the average user, I think, even below average user, their networks, their computers is what's going to get them in trouble in the first place.
Yep, I agree. That's the larger attack surface, right? And the IoT stuff has just been kind of wrapped up in like either side channel attacks or poorly engineered networking where somebody was port forwarding an access camera out for the past 10 years, and a bot or a hacker comes along and notices that, oh, look at all these access cameras that are just wildly exposed to the internet and they have this security flaw in them. Let's attack them and make a botnet out of it. Which is luckily has been kind of like regulated with law. Like there's a California law that says you can't do default passwords anymore. And luckily, you're starting to see devices ship with that compliance built in now. So like when you go and set up a new IoT device, you can't set a default password. You have to change it. So all good stuff. We've come a long way in the past 5, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. We've come a really long way. But it's getting better, and hopefully we'll see all these IoT devices move off of what we consider our primary network for our home computers and that kind of thing. Cameras, you'll probably need to leave those on Wi-Fi. That's not really what Thread is made for.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Thread is in like Zigbee Thread, but the smaller stuff, sensors, leak detectors, motion detectors, that kind of stuff, put those on their own network. And if we can all standardize on the network, that even better. That it? Anybody want else rant and talk about this one thing? All right. Well, if you have any feedback, comments, picks of the weeks, or great ideas for a show, give us a shout. Our email address is feedback@HomeTech.fm. You can visit HomeTech.fm/feedback and fill out the online form. All right. Gavin, you got some lawn updates. You got an air. You already told us about the air. How can you have even more lawn updates though? Like you can't even go outside and see your lawn right now. What
oh no, I can see my lawn from my window. It's more of a bragging update at this point, right? It's like
nice.
so we have one house that has the nicest lawn in the area in the neighborhood. You every time you go by it, you're like, ooh, Well, I noticed this week it's starting to brown a bit. They weren't watering it. Their soil moisture was low, where my lawn is nice and green still. So all I'm saying is, putting the soil moisture sensors has given me a real good view of my, my lawn, the watering. I've seen some zones that actually don't get the same amount of water as the other. So I got to make a little tweaks to those sprinkler heads. But it's been great. Like as soon as it drops below a certain amount, I have Home Assistant notify me, and then I can schedule a quick water of just that zone the next day, right? And it kicks off and it's done before sunrise. So it's really easy, really good, and it's been keeping the lawn green. I love it. It's one of those projects. It's worth the investment, right? You know.
Yeah, that's actually cool because like my lawn, right? I have the beehive thing, and it's got this little smart system set up in it where if it's going to rain, it'll actually shut off. That's kind of nice. Like if it's, I don't know what the threshold is, but if it thinks it's going to rain, it'll say I'll walk in and see it blinking yellow, and it won't. It's got like some kind of smart thing built into it. And that's okay. But if it doesn't rain, like if it's 30% chance of rain or whatever that it gets cut off on, or if it's just rainy everywhere else but here, and I don't get the grass doesn't get watered in a few days, yeah, it starts to brown up. But what you're saying is like you're like at a micro level rather than the macro level, like looking
Yeah.
at the exact condition of the patch of grass that you need to water with your zone. And if it starts turning brown because you have the data that says, yeah, the soil is not as moist as it should be.
Yep.
Let's throw some water over that. That's great. That's really cool. That is
And
really cool.
the Ratio system, the Ratio system has that rain detection too. It uses a bunch of weather stations in the area, and it will determine how much rain fell, et cetera, et cetera. But you see, like it doesn't take into account that this patch of grass here is underneath trees, so it's not getting the same amount of water.
Mhm.
Or parts of my lawn are actually like on a hill, so the water runs off of it and down the hill, and it doesn't stay as much, right? So things like that. So I have a sensor in each zone, and I can actually see, is that zone getting enough water? If not, then I make a tweak. I can make it water more. In my backyard, one zone does 3 sections, and one of the sections is not getting the same water as the other two. And I think it's the head is tilted a bit. I gotta go make a little adjustment. Or I also was looking up replacement heads that spread the water a little better, right? And I'm gonna throw one of those in and see if it helps. But having data from sensors is excellent because you can actually see, if it's working and tweak it. Like some people look at you and think, it's too much work, and I'm like, you know what though, my lawn's green. That in the end, that's the answer. And every time I cut it and I can get those lines in it going sideways, I feel proud. I'm happy.
All right, so I'm one of those people that's going to say that's too much work. Are you able to automate this in any way with maybe with some AI or something like that?
No, you can. Well, not the mowing part. Well, not the mowing part, but the watering part. Yeah. The watering part, I can have it. Like right now, I have it set up so it notifies me. So if a certain zone drops me below a certain percentage, I get a notification that, hey, this zone's low on water now, right? But I can automate it so that when that happens, it schedules the watering session for the next day, just for that zone alone, right? And then it will notify me, hey, we've taken care of it, we're scheduling it, here you go, all done. You don't have to think about it. They're just keeping you in the loop. And I haven't gotten that far to automate it yet because I'm still at the testing phase, to see how trustworthy it is. But it's been great though. The EcoWit sensors I have over RF have been working flawlessly, and I can see the graphs of, the day I water it, it's high in moisture, and I can see it drop off over the next week and reach like down to 20%, and then I start getting notifications. So they work really well. I mean, yes, they stick out of the lawn, but I just mow around them and then I go back with the weed whacker, and they're resilient enough that they can handle that. So I'm good with that, right? I have no problems with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is like it's better grass through the scientific method. You have observations, you research, develop a hypothesis, test, analyze, and do your conclusions, and you do it all over again. Just keep going. Yeah, greener grass through science. There we go.
The wife came to me and she's like, what are all those green things sticking out of the lawn that you've been doing out there? And, I was like, oh God, she noticed this better work. Like the pressure was on at that point. And now that she's seeing, oh, our lawn's looking so much greener this year, I'm like, yes, it was worth it in the end. She won't question it anymore.
How many of these do you have in the yard so far?
I just ordered 3 more.
So how many total is that?
I put one in like each of my zones. There's a couple in a couple zones, but I think I have about 5 or 6 at this point.
Yeah, I'm looking at them again. They're not bad priced, honestly, for what they are. I've seen a lot more expensive ones I think you've even bought a more expensive one, if I remember correctly. Or maybe somebody else was saying that.
How much are they in the US stores?
$54.
No, they're cheaper than that.
Well, so this is the sensor and the gateway.
You don't need the gateway.
Oh, yeah. So $25.
Just the sensor. Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, that's dirt cheap.
That's not bad.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm probably going to get a couple of these.
Yep. And but they're not the type of things that you want to pull out and push in very often. They feel like they'll break one day if I did that a lot. So that's why I said I just leave it in the ground and I'll just weed whack around it afterwards.
I need something that the robot will avoid, but this sounds like a great idea. I really like this.
They also have a rainfall collector too for $50.
Yeah, you can get their if you want their base station, you can get it and it will send the data in. You can have that connected to Home Assistant, but then their station's also limited to how many devices it can have paired to it.
Yeah, it's at 8.
Right. So yeah, so I was just using RF, and RF has no limits. It's just like everything spitting out a signal. I got my car kicking telling me the tire pressure sensors are all reporting into Home Assistant every time it drives in the garage. I'm picking up my neighbor. I just picked up an Evo. A Hyundai VDO is just now reporting their TPMS. I almost want to find this car and tell them that they're low. They should top up the air. But it'll be creepy when they want to know how. I know. So the RF is really cool. These things, their battery has been great. And they work. They've been very reliable.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, this is fun. It's been fun watching your grass. I mean, how long do you have to do before
winter?
Before winter, yeah. What is it? It's not summer yet. Not summer yet.
Yeah. We have a few months before. Now is the time when the grass grows nicely because it's spring. It's not too hot. It grows in nicely and stuff. You do a little watering and stuff. Then you'll have the summer season where it's really hot and you'll fight to keep it green. And then the fall it will be all green again and it'll look nice and stuff. So you want it to look nice right about now.
How are you using these with Home Assistant?
Using the SDR antenna.
Oh yeah.
Software defined radio. Yeah. Just like, yeah, I still have that. I still have it hooked up for the airplane stuff that, the flight tracker thing.
Yeah. So they all broadcast on the 915 megahertz signal. I want to say it is like up there. And that's the same as my water heater. Or my water gauge. So that's great because I pick all those things up at once. And I actually have multiple antennas in here and I set the second antenna. I've been scanning different frequencies just to see what I pick up. I'm hoping to pick up my energy meter at some point.
Nice. Well, that's fun. No, I noticed you said Home Assistant. Is there any Home Assistant updates that I need to be aware of?
Always.
Yeah, I was just thinking before the show. I was like, they released the final for 2023.6 on Wednesday. And I was just thinking before the show, I haven't seen an update to that yet since. But nope, they came with the 2023.6.1. So we have another update for Home Assistant. But, we covered it last week. I installed it. It's been running great. I like some of the new features. I have to dig a little more into it, but it's pretty cool. Been stable.
I'm installing it right now. We'll see what happens.
YOLO.
Seems like you install the update every show.
That's the only time he hears about them. So
yeah, he waits for the show to install it live.
I don't keep up with this. No, I mean, I think if I was doing more with the platform, I would do something with it. But I actually did do something with Home Assistant. I guess I should. I don't think I talked about this on the show, but I had a Shelly button and a Wemo, one of those Wemo switches that we've been talking about that, that just, I forget that I have. It turns on and off light in the guest bedroom. I had company in town and realized that the other Wemo, I think it was a Wemo like keypad or something that I had dropped and busted it. And basically I'd been using Siri to turn on and off the light, right? So I just say, you turn on the light and it turns on. But there was nothing to turn on and off the table side light at the bed. So I grabbed the Shelly button, identified it with Home Assistant. Home Assistant identified the Wemo thing, tied them together with the automation. Bing, boom, pretty easy. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I liked that they kind of have like a wizard, like what you would expect, right? Here's your input. Here's the two devices you want to control or, to pair together or whatever. And then I think it's got like how you get to like, what automation do you want to have happen? But what I did like was that you could start at any part of that process, like of the wizard. It was kind of open. Like you didn't have to start with the input device. You could start with the output device or whatever the target device was, right? You could start with the target device being the Wemo switch and then you can like say, okay, what do you want to control? What do you want to control it? And you can tell it, oh, I want it to be this button, or I want it to do this during the time frame. I thought that was nice that you didn't have to start with like the standard. As far as UI goes or UX goes for a user, like you could go at automation at any direction that you wanted to, and it was easy every which way that you wanted to do it. So they've done a pretty good job with that. I didn't have to edit any YAML, and I made my first home assistant home automation thing. And if this thing ever gets done updating, I'll do another one.
Did you make more graphs yet after last week's Apex charts?
There was a chart. No, I didn't look at that. I haven't had time. But I did make another graph. That Shelly button, you could look at I guess there was like a power. It's a rechargeable battery inside the Shelly button, so you hook it up to like a USB thing and it recharges or whatever. That started off at 60% and then like immediately dropped to 30. Like within a couple hours, dropped to 30%. I'm like, oh wow, this is not good for Wi-Fi. But it's been basically at the same level. I've been watching that graph. Button battery, it's still at 35% now. So after a few weeks of being a Wi-Fi button living in this room, not really being used, but it's been 35% for a few weeks now. So not bad. TJ, you got a new house, man. You got any more projects that you've done?
So I've been working on all kinds of things, unfortunately and fortunately. So I got done with some kitchen cabinet lighting this past weekend. I installed a bunch of corner mount LED channeling with diffusers. I think they're 4,000K LED light strips. Super easy to install. I got these little clamp things that just clamp down on the terminals. And they're a little finicky. Like if you twisted them a certain way or something like that, even if they were clamped down all the way, they might not work correctly. So I might go back in at some point and solder them. But I think they look pretty good for the time being. Yeah, once I get better at soldering. So, but they're controlled by a Zeus RGBW dimmer. So I could possibly do color at some point. Right now it's just plain white. But they work great. I can adjust the actual brightness. I can adjust the white brightness as well. So there's kind of two different levels of brightness that I can control with it, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, and some you can actually do like tunable white with RGB and the white. Like so, it's possible if you have the right controller software or whatever, you can actually mix all three of those together. With the known white, I think you said it was what 4,000.
4,000, yeah.
With if you know the Kelvin, like the math is there. It's easy to do. Trust me, I've been doing this for the math for a while. Like that was my project at the end of last year was to do all that and figure all that out. So, but like, yeah, it's totally doable to basically mix those together and get, it's kind of nice because like if you have a good white light, you can actually add a little more colors to it and it kind of like makes it look a little more rich, if you will. Like, I don't think you can, I think the green light is what you kind of keep mostly off on it. It's the red and the blue, kind of like theater lights. If you go to a theater, they always have the red, blue, and white light on.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of magic you can do with the RGBW tapes that you can't do with just, standard tunable lights where you're just mixing two colors together.
Yeah.
I forget what they call it, but that's kind of what Ketra does, like when they mix their lights together.
Yeah, I wasn't. I don't have deep pockets for that right now. I think these LED strips were like $15. Still super good quality and everything. So maybe we'll go into that in the future, but was not feeling it for this project.
Yeah, with the right controller or software or Home Assistant plugin or whatever, it's probably got it built in. Trust me, they think of everything. I mean, just look at these dashboards that I get. This is insane. So that's cool, man. We'll have to put the picture of this kitchen here up on the show notes. You did the Tokix, which is just awesome.
Yeah, I like that better than the under the cabinet ones. The floor ones look amazing.
Yeah,
and I was able to, because we have a sunroom or a patio or 3 seasons room or whatever you call it in your region.
A lanai,
I was able,
Florida room. Yeah.
I was able to go out there and just run underneath the carpet and just drill through the wall on each side. So it was super easy to actually run the wiring without doing like a bunch of damage and everything.
Nice.
And like at some point we're gonna probably redo the walls out in that room anyway, so I'll like properly run it at that point. But like it was pretty easy to get to the center island as well and add the lights there. So
you gave me ideas for my kitchen because I have a power coming up where the dishwasher is anyway. So we have the hole and everything right there that I can feed another line through, and then I can run the lights straight through there and tie it all in. So
yeah, this one was super easy because if you look at it, the range hood above there, I added an outlet. But I was actually able to run it through the bathroom. It shares a wall with a bathroom. And we're replacing the medicine cabinet anyway. And so I was able to run it to the other side of the kitchen cabinets without like drilling any more holes or anything like that. So that was very convenient timing.
I kind of have a similar setup. Like I have extra outlets that I put in anticipation that I do something like this, but just not knowing how to do it. So there's like 2 cabinets where I actually have an outlet, a switched outlet or an outlet I can switch. Turns out I really don't need to do any of that now with all the like, I want to laugh, but like the Wi-Fi controls, like Shelly, like these.
No wires needed.
The Shelly RGB W controllers. And I have one, well, I probably can't show that one. I have another one that is really good that I don't think is out.
Ooh, show us. You can show us. That's okay.
I could show it if I knew where it was. It's around somewhere. I don't know. It's another company makes it. Let's see if it's out.
Oh yeah. I've heard of that company actually. They do really good stuff.
Let's just say it's a Wiz product, and Wiz does a lot of Wi-Fi stuff. And I got plenty of that stuff to install and test and work on, and I've got plenty of these $5. I don't know. These Shelly RGBW controller things are just ridiculously cheap, and they're so small you can install them anywhere. Highly recommend them, even though they are on Wi-Fi. They do work well. So I'm totally jealous from the under cabinet one. So like when you posted that, I'm like, man, I'm gonna go put mine in, and then I thought about how long it would actually take me to do it.
Yeah. This surprisingly didn't take me long. I think I was working on it for like maybe 4 to 6 hours. I mean, it was a good amount of time still, but it wasn't that bad.
That's what I'm thinking. Well, I mean, my wife is still on me for the kitchen lights. I uninstalled, like they were the under counter lights were slowly over time over the past 6 years, like a couple of LEDs had gone bad on them. So I was like, I got all these lights from work. I'll just replace them with the strips that I have. And I did 2 of them and it took me 4 to 6 hours. I was like, but I had taken down all 4. And so like half of my kitchen right now doesn't have light. And it's been that way since Thanksgiving. Yeah. So it's that 4 to 6 hours that you're talking about. I'm like, oh yeah, I could do this. And then thinking about how long that's going to take to get in there. I got to move the fridge out of the way, and it's pain, so.
Yeah, that's right. Our kitchen's going through a rehab anyway. We're getting it ready for, if you see the picture through the notes or whatever, you'll notice the cabinets are puttied up and everything. So we're getting ready to sand them down and paint them and stuff. So now's the perfect time to drill holes and do all this stuff before stuff goes in the cabinets.
Absolutely. Well, you did a great job. It looks awesome. I'm jealous.
Yeah, now I gotta do all the hard part though, is all the programming, because installing the stuff and getting it set up with Home Assistant, the relatively easy part, but getting everything programmed how you want it to and start working how it should is the difficult part, and it's going to take the longest. So
Yep. Well,
but I've got this super sweet new instead of millimeter wave, I got this breathing presence sensor we're going to try out this weekend. I needed some kind of motion sensor or something in the bathroom, so I'm going to give that a shot. It's a recessed mount, Zigbee supposedly. It's got power terminals on it as well, so you could actually hardwire it if you wanted it to. It looks pretty decent, so we'll see what happens.
The ZYM100.
It's got a super appealing name. You can tell it's high quality from the box.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny because it says breathing presence sensor.
Oh, so it's like a Tuya product, looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it do? It detects you breathing? That's it?
Yeah. Well, if you get murdered, it calls 911 for you. So
yeah.
No, it's basically just like as far as I understand it, it's basically like a millimeter wave sensor. So it's along the similar line of like the FP2 and stuff like that. I'm sure it's not as good as the FP2 or some other sensors, because this one is only $40. So, but for $40, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, why not? Now, there's this Smart Home Scene. I'll put a link to this in the show notes. Has a little like a breakdown on it, and like they're taking pictures of all the chips and stuff inside and going over the logic board and all that good stuff. So, actually looks kind of neat. Well, let us know when you get to put it in. Let us know. They have graphs in this too. They have some graphs.
Yeah. Everybody loves graphs.
Yep. Make sure you guys go check that out. We'll definitely put the link to this in the show notes. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up another week. We do want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show, but especially those who are able to financially the show through our patron page. If you don't know about the patron page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 gets you a big shout out on the show, but every single patron gets an invite to our private Slack chat, the Hub, where you and everybody can go in there and see secret videos that I post in there about secret work projects. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you about it. It's in there. You go in the Hub, you can see it.
If you're at InfoComm next week too, make sure you bump into one of us. There, at least 2 of the 3 of us will be there. So.
Yeah, we should post some pictures in the Hub too. Some exclusive pictures from InfoComm in the Hub, and probably on Mastodon too, because nobody's on that. It's secret. All right. Well, yeah. What is it? I forgot.
HomeTech. Start live install on Mastodon.
Yeah. HomeTech.social. There you go. Yeah. All right. If you want to help the show but can't support financially, totally understand. Just appreciate a 5-star review on iTunes or a positive rating in the podcast app of your choice. That wraps another week here on HomeTech. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
Until next time.